So, hello everyone, and welcome back to STW Sports. I'm host Samuel Wright, and I'm joined by Nottingham Forest fan Reiss Lane. And Reiss, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you back on. And just want to start off by talking about Nottingham Forest season. Really getting to that point of the season now. 40 games played for Forest, 67 points, fifth in the table. Had a massive rise up the table under Steve Cooper. We're getting to that point of the season now. You're 4 points into the playoffs as well. So, it's a very interesting end to the season coming up. And you've got a couple of games in hand on the teams above you. So, the big end to the season coming up.
Yeah, it's the business end, isn't it now? Very cliche, but we've done, incredibly well to even get in this position after a start. I think that start has been well documented now, but, for those who don't know, 1 point from the first 7 games. So to even be in this position, you kind of, you have to tip your hat off to Steve Cooper, first of all. But, we have to live in the here and now, and it's in our hands to get in the playoffs, and there's still that tiny little chance of maybe us getting in the top 2. So we'll have to see. It's going to be an interesting end to the season starting tomorrow.
Yeah, the last game ended in defeat, of course, against Luton Town, which is a massive crunch game in the playoffs, really. But a big game on Easter Monday tomorrow. You do host at West Bromwich Albion. Obviously, West Brom, we know, of course, they are a good side. Not had the season they planned to have. Of course, Steve Bruce has come in, and in truth, West Brom haven't really progressed since Bruce came in. If anything, they've the results have just stayed the same as what they were before. But big game though that for Forest. Do you fancy your chances against a West Brom side who haven't really got much to play for?
They've still got that tiny outside chance of the playoffs, haven't they? So you would expect them to really, give us a game. You'd hope, well, not hope, because I want to win, but from their perspective, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. We haven't beat West Brom at home for quite a while. I know we've not played them loads, but we haven't. I think we mentioned this on my podcast to do with my friends. It was 2000 since we beat them at home in the league, so it'd be an interesting one. It makes it more interesting as well. They've got Andy Carroll up front, who we all know what his strengths are in the air, so it'd be interesting to see how we deal with him, because we might have a couple of injuries. Scott McKenna at the back might be injured, who's, for me, has probably been our player of the season. So it'll be an interesting one, but if we play to his capabilities at home, there'll be a sellout crowd there. We can win. We know that. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Tough game.
Yeah, I just want to speak about Steve Cooper for a moment. Of course, you mentioned that run, 1 point from the first 7 games, 1 point out of 21 available. That was unfortunately under Chris Hughton, who it didn't really work out for Hughton, it's fair to say, at Forest for one reason or another. Cooper, though, 36 games in charge now, 21 wins, 9 draws, 6 losses. The job he's done since coming to Forest is pretty much incredible, really. He's made such an impact on the team, turned it around. And no matter what happens this season, I guess, for Forest, you can really take some momentum into next season. But obviously now you're in the playoff positions. Of course, the aim is promotion. And what a story it would be if he could get you there.
Yeah, I'm going to be biased because I'm obviously a Forest fan, but for me, he's manager of the season, without a doubt. I know there'll be other managers chucked into the equation, Corbehan at Huddersfield and Jones at Luton have done brilliant jobs as well, you have to admit. But the start we had was, terrible, and he's completely turned it around. So, yeah, like I said to you at the start of the interview, you've got to live in the here and now, and it's in Forest's hands. So if they didn't get in the playoffs this season, it would be a bitter pill to swallow. Especially like you say with the games in hand, but them games in hand against Bournemouth and Fulham. But on the flip side of that as well, Bournemouth have been a bit rocky recently, and Fulham by that time could have had everything wrapped up. So you don't know on that aspect. I think for the worry is for most of us Forest fans is, if we didn't go up this season, it would be very tough to keep the squad together. Jed Spence isn't our player. He's if Forest are in this league next season, even if he wanted to stay at Forest couldn't really afford to splash the cash like, teams in Europe and the Premier League could. Brennan Johnson, he will only have a year left in his contract in the summer. Joe Worrell, who's been touted for the last few seasons, really, for a Premier League move. James Garner, who's, for me, one of the best centre mids in the Championship. He's a Premier League player in the making. You know, we've got Keenan Davis on loan, who's been absolutely superb as well. So, you know, it would, if they did stay in this league, it would be a bit of a rebuild in the summer, because there is players in this squad, for me, who will go on to play in the Premier League and be good in the Premier League. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But you know, if we didn't get it, we've got to build with Steve Cooper. He's proved, I think, like you say, the last 30 odd games, he's the man for the job, and you know, he just took to the club like a duck to water, to be honest.
Yeah, I just want to speak about the home form in 2022 for Nottingham Forest. 7 wins in 8 league home games, and throw in as well a couple of victories in the FA Cup against Arsenal and Leicester, which I'll come to in a bit more detail in a moment. That's a big part, really, of why Forest are where they are. I mean, I went to the City Ground at the start of the season in a Carabao Cup game against Bradford, and there wasn't really a feel around the stadium that fans believed good things were coming. I believe you had Bournemouth the following weekend, and everyone was a bit negative about that game and negative about the season, really. But, you know, obviously that just proves how much the mood's turning around, really. It's been rocking for the last few games, 7 wins in 8. Yeah, Forest really have put a terrific run of form together at home, and it's a go. Of course, your home games are a big part of that, and Forest are certainly making the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, going into like the turn of the year, it was just away form really that had put us kind of in contention. We was, you know, good at home, but because we had so many home games at the start of the season with Houghton, you know, we'd lost, thinking off the top of my head, first 4 home games, and then I think Steve Cooper's first home game was Millwall, which we drew. So, you know, that home form was down in the dumps. But, you know, this start of this year, they've literally turned that completely around, and it's a real fortress again. Forest, I know Huddersfield did beat us before the turn of the year, but on another night, we would have won that comfortably, dominated the game, but it was just one of them nights for us. So, yeah, it's been really good, and that home form is solid. We've not, you know, even like the only time we really looked under pressure at home was the Stoke game, where it was, we know, we were 2-1 down in the last minute with 10 men, and we still managed to get a point out of that. So that's testament to the manager and the players, to be honest, that they've been able to build it into a bit of a fortress again.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned briefly a moment ago, not only have you had a great turnaround in the league this season, you've also had a very memorable FA Cup run, of course, beating Arsenal, of course, who have won the competition the record amount of times. Rivals Leicester City, you barely faced really in the last decade, and obviously you've had to witness Leicester go high in the leagues, win the Premier League, win the FA Cup as well. So that must have been a nice moment. And of course, pushing Liverpool, arguably the best team in Europe, all the way as well. And obviously it only took Liverpool with a rather controversial goal to get over the line. So, you know, seeing yourselves compete against Premier League sides like that and even pick up wins, does that also give you hope if you were up to the Premier League, you'd compete with them? Or do you think the FA Cup's a bit of a different story?
I think if we did get up and kept this squad together, and you added that bit of quality what you need for the Premier League, I don't think we'd have not any problems, because that's naive, but I don't think we'd personally go back down. I think we could build, because the squad at the minute is full of young players, hungry players with energy, with pace, you know, and at any level that will cause teams problems, as seen in the FA Cup. You know, to be fair, against Arsenal, we bided this time and put together a brilliant move, won that game. And then Leicester, you know, were struggling a bit at the time, and we made them pay in that game brilliantly. We're excellent. And to be fair, against Liverpool on another night, we could have we had a really good chance before they took the lead through Jota. And if we'd have scored that, you never know, we might have won the game. But you know, we've seen our good day was yesterday. Liverpool, you know, demolishing Manchester City in a half. So for us to hold them out for as long as we did, and Jurgen Klopp I think he made 4 changes at one point to bring on 4 internationals, I think was just a testament to us how far we've come this season. So, but it's a big effort at the minute. We've got to, you know, finish in the top 6, and then to get up, if it is playoffs, navigate his way through that, because there is some tough sides in there, you know, probably on a footballing aspect. we probably better than Huddersfield and Luton. But as you've seen with his results against them at home and the other day against Luton, there's several ways to skin a cat and win games. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of the players, I don't think Forest have been in the playoffs from 2011, I believe, the last time when you faced Blackpool in the semi-finals. So 11 years ago, obviously you came very, very close a couple of seasons ago, but unfortunately fell at the final hurdle under, I believe it was Lamucci. But big chance this for Forest, though, if they do get into the playoffs. As a fan, Reiss, what are your thoughts on the players? Obviously, watching them as a neutral is always fun, always very entertaining. Of course, a very good structure to the Football League, which every neutral enjoys. But as a fan, how do you think you'd cope with the playoffs, really, having to not coach with it for over a decade?
Well, that was a long time ago. We finished back-to-back playoffs under Billy Davis. Like you mentioned, Blackpool, but then the following season we had Swansea. We've got in 4 playoffs. We've never gone past the semi-finals. On 2 occasions we've squandered 2-goal leads against Sheffield United in 2003 in Yeovil, which was about 2006, I think. And then obviously we had the Blackpool and the Swansea ones under Billy. It's hard because it will be a mental thing over the club, and if we do get there, it will be, it probably will. Well, it will be mentioned. I don't know whether it'll be in people's minds, and that I've no idea. But it will definitely be in the fans' minds. I know that, but I think with this team, what has made a lot of Forest fans so, grabbed onto this team so much is they've continuously got over hurdles which mentally in the past Forest have messed up, seeing games out, or just, it's like the Leicester game being a perfect example. Was 3-0 up in that game, then we conceded before half time, and it's like previous Forest side, you'd have thought we're going to lose this 4-3. But, this Forest team, they've learned how to see games out, and they've learned how to, if it is pretty tight, 1-0 ahead or a couple of goals ahead, getting that next goal to kill the game completely. So, if that does happen, it'll be interesting to see what it's like under this squad. I'm hoping that the things of the past have long gone now, and that won't affect us.
Yeah, and we are at the business end of the season, as I've already pointed out, Reiss. So I do want to ask now, who would you say has been your Forest player of the season, and what also has been your best favourite result of the season?
The player of the season, I mentioned that earlier, Scott McKenna. We signed him last season from Aberdeen. He gets a bit of bad flack from the Scottish fans, which is a bit odd. I don't know whether that's because he's probably not took that jump on to Celtic and Rangers naturally, which is a lot happens in that league. But he's been, ever since we signed him, he's been immense for us. He was ruled out a month or so ago for 6 weeks, and then 2 weeks later he rocks back up at Blackpool and produces an absolutely incredible assist for his 4th goal. So yeah, he's my player of the season. But there is so many candidates this season. There really is. Jed Spence has been exceptional. I think he's got a lot of national attention, as has Brennan Johnson. James Garner is another one for me who has been brilliant. And then there's unsung heroes, like Ryan Yates, Joe Wall, Jack Colback, who always give 100% and have turned, especially in Yates and Colback's situation, probably turned their Forest careers around a bit. So there's that many candidates. My favourite result of the season, that is a tough one. Hopefully that's to come, but obviously I think the one what sticks out is probably the Bristol City away game, where it was 1-0 down going into injury time, and we ended up winning that game 2-1. I mean, that to get a point out of that game at that stage, you just snap someone's hand off. So to get all 3 was incredible that night. That just showed the character of this team, really. Obviously, it's always nice to beat, his rivals Derby, which we did 2-1 at the City Ground earlier in the season as well. So, yeah, but hopefully that best result's still to come yet. Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously, I ask about that as well. So the aim now, of course, is playoffs. Of course, automatics. You're only 7 points off automatics at the moment, Reiss. Can you still get automatics, and how big will that game against Bournemouth be in your chase for that?
We can still get automatics. It is a long shot. There's no doubt about that. I think it's been mentioned by myself and most Forest fans. But we all know deep down it's a long shot. But like I said earlier, Bournemouth are a bit rocky at the minute. If you could they've got a really tough running as well. If we could put them under a little bit of pressure, maybe going into that game when we do play, and if we can, I don't know, get within two or 3 points of them and thinking you've got to go there to win. You look at their squad and the money they've spent. I know they've recouped in transfers, but they signed a lot of really good players in January. And the pressure would probably be on them. So it'll be interesting, but that, like I say, it is a long shot. If we get in the top 6, that would be incredible. Anything else would be, we're talking a miracle, in my opinion, to be honest, from what the start was.
Yeah, and also obviously mentioned about player and favourite results of the season as well. Because I'm going to ask you now, if you just predict right now where you think Forest will finish this season, exact position, and if it's in the playoffs, do you think you'll win the playoffs?
I do think we'll get in the playoffs personally. That's a famous last word, but I do think we'll get in the playoffs. Position wise, tough one. It's a tough one. Maybe fourth. I don't know. That's a tough question. Exact position, but I do think we'll be in there come end of the season. And then it will be interesting who we get, because like I said earlier, Huddersfield and Luton have beat us this season, so they'll want to take us on, and we'll take anybody on. That's no problem to us, and whoever's the best team come end of the season gets promoted. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and of course, a nice trip to Wembley as well, possibly for Forest in the playoff final, would certainly do no harm as well. And I mean, obviously, Premier League promotion, of course, something Forest have craved for a very long time. So we'll have to see if that can come this season. But I think many people, of course, who know Forest is a very big club, are very much cheering on Forest in this race. But you've also got the lads of Luton who've also won the hearts of many people as well, and even Huddersfield for that matter, even though they had their fairy tale story in 2017. So no matter who it is, I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. But that's all we've got time for this evening anyway, Reiss, on STW Sports. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will speak to you soon, and good luck to Forest for the remaining games.
Thank you very much, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.